Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Convirza 2018 second quarter release overview. I'm so glad that you've been able to join us, and I'm really excited to show you what we have built for you in this next upcoming release. Just by way of introduction, my name is Darren Lucas. I am one of the product managers here at Convirza, and I'm happy to be here with you and happy to show you some of the things that we've built based off of your feedback and some of the things that you should see available in the Convirza for Advertisers platform over the next few days as we roll out this release to all of you. The way that this webinar is going to run and operate, it will be about 30 minutes long. The first 20 minutes I'll be presenting on the release itself, showing you some of the features, talking about the features and what you can expect to see once we do release. And then the last 10 minutes of the webinar today have been set aside for a question and answer session. So if you have questions, and specifically questions related to what you're going to see and what I'm going to talk about, please enter them in the chat. We're going to have Jim, one of our marketers, join us at the end and moderate a question and answer session. So please, throughout the presentation, please chat in any questions that you may have, and we'll be sure to answer any of those questions here at the end of the presentation. Let's first overview what you can expect from the second quarter release. Like I said, this will be releasing over the next few days. So some of you may be able to see this as early as Friday of this week. And then if you don't see it by Friday, many of you will start to see these changes starting next week. This release has been focused on a few key areas that a lot of you have been asking for and really highlighting. First and foremost, we really wanted to help speed up the process of creating new tracking numbers, as well as applying call actions to those tracking numbers. And so you'll see a few features designed around in speeding up that process of creating newly provisioned tracking numbers, as well as creating and applying call actions to those tracking numbers. Next, we wanted to bring greater visibility into the tracking numbers that actually belong to your campaigns. A lot of you are familiar with the campaigns page and know that there's some navigation between the campaigns page and seeing the tracking numbers by going back and forth between screens. And so we've brought all of that onto one single screen so that you can see now campaigns, and then in line with the campaigns, the tracking numbers that actually belong to those campaigns. And then lastly, some of you already have Spam Guard, which is a anti-spam technology that Convirza has developed. We're bringing Spam Guard into the platform itself for you to see and to manage, as well as introducing a new blocked calls report that is based off of Spam Guard. If you don't have Spam Guard, I recommend reaching out to your account manager, reaching out to support, and asking them about this feature and seeing what it can do for you. Just as a high-level overview on some of these main points, when it comes to tracking number creation, we're going to be introducing some defaults that will auto-populate when you go to create a new tracking number. And so we'll show you this process of what these defaults are and how you can actually enable those. Next, when it comes to call actions, we're also introducing defaults. So you can go in and you can set up essentially default call actions. And when you go to create a new call action, those defaults will automatically populate. You can review those and overwrite any of those, but it really speeds up that process of associating call actions to your tracking numbers. Next, and I alluded to this as well, to bring greater visibility into the tracking numbers that belong to each campaign, we're now showing both the tracking numbers lists and the campaign list on the same page. And then lastly, we're brought Spam Guard to the forefront. So those are the main updates. We actually do have a few other UI, user interface, and usability changes as well, and I'll highlight those throughout. But these are the main things that this release will actually be addressing. So without further ado, let's jump right into the platform here and show you some of these updates in action. First, um, let's go to the group and user page, which is where we're introducing those defaults that I've talked about. So on the group and user page, you'll notice a few updates that we've made. First, and I didn't really highlight it as one of the main things that we introduced, but we are now allowing for an export of all of your groups as well as all of your users. You can either download both a groups list and a users list up here at the top of the page, or underneath on the sections under subgroups or under users, you can export just groups or just users. When it comes to the actual defaults that will allow for faster tracking number creation or faster call actions creation, those have been introduced just below the group details in these collapsed menu items. So for example, for tracking number creation, to speed up tracking number creation, we have added all these defaults that will allow you to come in here and set a default repeat interval, or you can set up default DNI settings. You can decide whether or not the call will be recorded, where we're going to play the call recording disclaimer. We'll be adding voice prompts here as well, whisper messages, and then lastly, you can enter in ringtone numbers. So the way that this works is when you come in here and you set up any of these defaults, when you go to create a new tracking number, these things will automatically populate on the tracking number builder. So you won't have to go in and manually enter any of these things anymore. They will automatically populate. Now, they won't take effect until you actually save the newly created tracking number, which gives you an opportunity to go in and review your defaults, edit them and adjust them if you want. But this process will significantly speed up the process for creating new tracking numbers. Call actions are very similar as well, where we've introduced them down here, where you can come in here and you can set up defaults for your call actions. And they work very, very similar. So when you create a new tracking number and you want to apply call actions, all you have to do is hit the call actions button. These defaults will automatically populate. You can review them, you can edit them, you can adjust them if you want, or you could just simply save them. So the process of actually creating call actions has now been significantly simplified as well. A couple of other changes that we made to this page that you'll want to be aware of. Underneath feature settings, we're introducing the ability for you to manage your conversation analytics analysis on a group by group basis. So if you have groups that you don't want calls analyzed for, you can navigate to that group up here in the breadcrumb and disable those specific groups. Same thing with spam guard protection. That will be on a group by group basis. By default, conversation analytics and spam guard will be enabled for all of your groups. And so what we're now allowing you to adjust is to go in and disable spam guard or disable conversation analytics for certain groups. We're introducing a feature here now that allows you to also share the DNI code or that DNI snippet that gets added to the head section of your website with subgroups. Previously, all groups and all subgroups had a unique code. If you'd like to set up groups organizationally and want to share a code with those subgroups, you can actually come in here and enable this, which will take the same code for this group in the breadcrumb and we'll share it with all of its subgroups. Last change that we've made here is with actually custom sources themselves. We got a lot of feedback around your custom sources and how you wanted to predefine lists for custom sources. Previously, all custom sources were available on all 5 pick lists. And what we're allowing you to do now is to actually define custom sources for each of your 5 custom source lists. And that will allow you to better organize your custom sources. When this actually releases, we're going to take all of your existing custom sources and populate them in all 5 lists. So you may want to do a quick cleanup right when you receive the update, and delete out any custom sources you don't want out of specific lists, and kind of clean up that process. But we're now allowing better organization when it comes to your custom sources. Those are a lot of the updates that we've introduced on the group and user page. Again, we've introduced defaults for both tracking number settings as well as call action settings that will allow you to create tracking numbers quicker, as well as create call actions even quicker. We've released we're releasing a couple of updates that will allow you to better manage which groups will be analyzed using conversation analytics call analysis, as well as spam guard. And then we've also introduced better organization of your custom sources into predefined custom sources lists. And then lastly, we now have added the ability for you to export lists of your users as well as lists of your groups. The next page that a lot of the changes will take place on is the campaign and tracking number page. On the campaign and tracking number page, we have received a lot of feedback around the visibility and seeing which tracking numbers actually belong to your campaigns themselves. If you're familiar with this page today, this doesn't look all that unsimilar from what you're used to. Essentially, this page today is a list of all of your campaigns, which it will be when you first load the page. However, what we have added is we've added an expand icon over here to the left that will actually expand and show the tracking numbers that belong to each campaign. And you can either do this on each campaign individually, or we have a master expand all introduced up here at the top. So if you click this master expand all, we'll actually expand all of your campaigns and show the tracking numbers that belong to every campaign, or you can manage this on a campaign by campaign basis. So in the table itself, you can see that this campaign has these 4 tracking numbers themselves. There's actually 6 tracking numbers and a pool. And you can actually come in here, and we've introduced the column picker here as well. So the column picker will actually allow you to see other tracking number route settings right in this table. So if you'd like to come in here and you'd say, for instance, like to see whether or not the disclaimer has been added, whether or not you're recording calls, your repeat interval, or your voice prompts, you can select those in the column picker, and they've now been added to this table. So you'll have better control over what you're seeing and what you're viewing. Of course, if you want to add a new tracking number, it's the same process. You just go ahead and edit the campaign, and then you'll have the ability to add tracking numbers. But we have introduced the ability to edit any tracking numbers directly from this page as well. Last major change that we've made to this page is an export functionality as well, which will export a list of all of your campaigns and all of your tracking numbers. One thing to note about these exports that we've introduced both here as well as on the group and user page, these exports will be based off of the groups that you have selected in the breadcrumb. So it will download all of the data for the group and all of the subgroups selected in the breadcrumb. So if you'd like to narrow down your list on your export and you already know what kind of group level to go to, you can actually navigate directly to that group in the breadcrumb, which will narrow down the results that you'll receive. So for example, here, if I go here and navigate to this group, it will narrow down the download list to just this group and its subgroups. So that will help you better define and better narrow down what you're getting on your download. So if you'd like to download everything, continue to stay at your top level. If you'd like to narrow down your download, simply select that group that you want in the breadcrumb, and the downloads will be available based off of that selection. So those are a lot of the main highlights that I really wanted to talk about and show to you prior to release. We're really excited to get this in your hands and give you some experience with these things. And we'd love your feedback once you've had an opportunity to use a lot of these new features. Again, a lot of these will be rolling out later this week or into next week. So you'll see a lot of these updates either starting on Friday or likely sometime next week, depending on when we roll out this release to your group and to your account. So that's it as far as what I wanted to show and present to you for the upcoming release. Why don't I turn it back over now to Jim and answer some of the questions that you have. Again, we'll spend about the next 10 minutes before we close out the webinar answering any questions that you may have and that sort of thing. If you have questions, continue to enter those into the chat and we'll answer those at this time. So go ahead, Jim. What questions do we have from our participants?
First question we have. First, an accolade. Nice changes. And
thank you.
Thank you.
We're excited to get them in your hand.
First question is, can we have a visual report showing zip codes of respondents to track what areas are producing results?
Yeah, that report actually already exists, and that report was released based off of our last release. And what that report is actually being called is calls by region. So if you go to your reporting section and you go to the calls by region report, you should be able to see that data that you're looking for on the calls by region report. So go ahead, check that report out. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to support or reach out to your account manager. But the calls by region report has been specifically designed around giving you zip code data.
Second question from the same person. On daily car reports that I have set up to come to me every day from prior day's calls, can we now program the inbound email from Convirza subject line to identify which campaign that report belongs to? When you get 10 reports every day and currently they all have the same subject line, it's a pain to go through all 10 to forward, et cetera, to appropriate channels.
Oh, that is actually a great question. Offhand, I'm not aware of what's actually driving those subjects. So let's do a little bit of research on that and get back to you with an answer on how we on if or how we might be able to edit or adjust those subject lines. I'd imagine, Jim, you have contact information of who asked that question, so we can reach back out to them once we have an answer.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Yep, we'll do some more research on that and get back to you with an answer around if and if so, how we can edit some of those subjects for you. I'm not familiar if it's a setting or not, so let me do a little bit of research on that for you.
And I'm waiting for more questions right now. Let me scroll here to see if I missed. Nope, there is one more here. Sorry, it was a long question. It went off the screen. Can we have a progress counter when pages are slow in loading rather than the screen looking like it has froze?
Sure, and that's actually an update that we're slowly introducing as well, where what you'll actually notice is we are starting to introduce loading wheels on a lot of pages. So for example, on our last release, when we released the new reporting suite, we introduced loading wheels on that actual page. You'll notice that some pages now have loading wheels as well. So what we're doing is, as we're slowly releasing and releasing updates to pages, we are releasing loading wheels as well. You may not have noticed this, but most pages actually do have a progress bar right up here at the top. If you notice this, there actually is this progress bar that shows you progress. But what we've recognized is a lot of users don't notice it, right? So it's actually there. You just have to look for it up in the upper, part of the screen, right above the, right above all of the headers here. But that's actually on most pages today. But we are slowly replacing that for more visual loading wheels based off of feedback similar to that, where users just haven't been noticing that that progress wheel actually does exist, but it does. But we are going to slowly replace that with more visual loading wheels slowly over time. So great feedback, great suggestion. We've heard you, and you'll notice slowly throughout each release, more and more pages will have a more visual loading wheel.
Now, that question was from Michael, and what I would say to Michael, if there are particular pages that you're more interested in than others, if you could let us know that, we can determine whether or not they're on our list that we're releasing to, and then I suppose make a determination if that's something we do need to include in the future. So that would be
Sure.
helpful.
Sure, absolutely. It'd be helpful if there's some are better than others, but again, just look up at the top. Those actually do already exist, but we're going to make them more visual for you. We've heard a lot of feedback around this, and users haven't noticed them as much as we thought they would with the original upper loading bar, and so we are replacing them with loading wheels.
Next question, can you implement a way to search by external ID and not just group name?
That would probably be when it comes to reports, would be my guess. So you're wanting a way to filter reports based off of external ID, not just a group name, would be my guess. And that's a great suggestion. I will make sure that we look at that and address that next time we go to release an update to reports. I know one thing that we have been more conscious of with our new report design was including external IDs. The previous reports didn't actually include external IDs. They only included group name, campaign name, not external IDs or campaign external IDs. So we made a conscious effort to make sure to include those. We'll look at those for filters as well, and look at introducing external IDs into the filters. So great suggestion. We'll definitely look at making that a reality on our next reporting release.
An assisted clarification on that question is external ID for searching accounts, not reports.
For searching accounts, not reports. Okay, yeah, that's noted. Thank you for clarifying on exactly what that request is.
And then also in the breadcrumb.
Okay, so what you'd like to see is you'd like to see external IDs in the breadcrumb, not just the group names. Is that correct?
That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay, yeah, good.
Yes, the answer to that is yes. So.
Good. It sounds like when you're using external IDs, you want those IDs to be more visual and more searchable then. Okay, yeah, that's good to know. We'll definitely evaluate that and bring external IDs more to the forefront on future releases.
Okay.
Anything else, Jim?
That's the end of the questions on the list at this moment.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll stick around for the next couple of minutes. If you do have questions, feel free to chat them in. Again, we're really excited to get this release into your hands, get your feedback on it, and really excited for you to start using some of this new functionality that we developed based off of your feedback. So keep the feedback coming. This is why we do this. That's why we present these things and we build everything for you. So please continue to give us feedback and help us to improve the experience for you. So if you're going to go ahead and take off, thank you very much. If not, we'll stick around for the next couple of minutes to answer any other questions that come in.
Well, Darren, looks like we have people dropping off, so I think we've got the questions answered.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jim. And thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Take care, everyone.